same time. And tonight we have a very special program. Oh, Ramanuja, Hare Krishna. Everybody else I don't see, but I guess you're listening. So, okay, it's time. So we have a very special program tonight. It's, of course, we're leading up to Ram Navami, which is in a few days from now. But today is the commemoration of the appearance day of Sripad Ramanuja Acharya. And so you may think, how does that relate to Ram Navami? Well, it relates very well to Ram Navami because Sripad Ramanuja Acharya is Lakshman. That's why it's called Ramanuja. And it's very important to celebrate the appearance and disappearance days of these great personalities. So what we're going to do first, for those who are either on Facebook, and for those of you who are on Zoom, you'll get a chance to ask questions later. So please, chuparo, which means don't say anything in the meantime. We're going to start chanting the prayers to Vaishnavas, Ohe Vaishnava Thakur. And that's an appropriate way to introduce this particular topic. So for those of you who just joined us, we are celebrating the appearance day of Sripad Ramanuja Acharya. Let me just light. Please don't unmute yourself. So we are celebrating the appearance day of Sripad Ramanuja Acharya, and we are going to chant Ohe Vaishnava Thakur. And I guess you can listen and you can chant yourselves at home along, but don't unmute yourself because it'll get a little unwieldy. So now, because we have this self-isolation, we're not allowed to use cartels anymore, which is a blessing for me. I'm ecstatic because I never like cartels because they hurt my eardrums. So anyway, Krishna fulfills certain desires that we have by certain other strategies. Okay. Ohe Vaishnava Thakur, Doyara Sagar Vedase, Karuna Kori, Diyapada Chaya, Shodahe Amaya, Tomaracharana Dori, Chaya Megadomi, Chaya Dosha Shodi, Chaya Guna Devo Dase, Chaya Satsanga, Deo Amare, Vosechi Sangera She, Ekaki Amara, Noi Poi Bolo, Harinama Sankir Tane, Tumi Kripakori, Shada Bindu Dia, Deho Krishna Namadane, Krishna say Tomara, Krishna Dite Paro, Tomara Shakati Ache, Amitau Kangala, Krishna Krishna Boli, Dahi Tavapache Ache, Ohe Vaishnava Thakura, Doyara Sagar, Eda Se Karuna Kori. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oi Vaishnava Thakur, 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 Oi Vaishnava Thakur. Jai, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So I'll read the translation to this nice poem. O Venerable Vaishnava, O Ocean of Mercy, be merciful unto your servant. Give me the shade of your lotus feet and purify me. I hold on to your lotus feet. Teach me, please everybody leave your phone on mute. If you're on Zoom, don't take it off. Teach me, give me the shade of your lotus feet and purify me. I hold on to your lotus feet. Teach me to control my 6 passions, rectify my 6 faults, bestow upon me the 6 qualities, and offer unto me the 6 kinds of holy association. I do not find the strength to carry on alone the Sankirtan of the holy name of Hari. Bless me by giving me just 1 drop of faith with which to obtain the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours, you have the power to give him to me. I'm simply running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna. So, please leave your phones on mute. That's my request. So, anyway, so today we are commemorating the appearance day of Sripad Ramanuja Acharya. Ramanuja Acharya, let me get my notes on Ramanuja Acharya here. He is the Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. Sri Sampradaya means the Lakshmi Sampradaya. Now he is called Ramanuja because he is the younger brother of Ram. And that's why it's appropriate we talk about Ramanuja Acharya on these days leading up to Lord Ram's appearance day. Ramanuja, that means he's Lakshman, an incarnation of Lakshman. So just a little bit of philosophical information here. The Sri Sampradaya is known for Vishishta Dvaita, which means qualified oneness, which is very similar to our philosophy of Achincha Beta Beta Tattva, taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which means one and different, everything is one and different simultaneously from the Lord. In other words, the material energy is one and different from the Lord, the spiritual energy is one and different from the Lord, we are one and different from the Lord. Amami Vangsa Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manakshashtani Indriyani Prakritishtani Karshati. The Lord's energy, just like the sunshine, is the same as the sun, and it's different from the sun simultaneously. So in the same way, this is the meaning of Chincha Beta Beta Tattva philosophy, which is very similar to Vishishta Dvaita philosophy. Now, Madhvacharya's philosophy, and it's interesting, Madhvacharya is the Acharya of the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya. Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. His philosophy was Advaita. So he basically posited an extreme difference between the spiritual energy and the material energy, or between the Lord and the material energy. Whereas we are saying that the Lord and his energies are intimately connected, in one sense, non-different from him, controlled by him, and they are eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's enough about philosophy. So here's the story. Actually, before we start telling the story about Ramanuja Acharya, he wrote a Bhashya, a commentary on the Vedanta called the Sri Bhashya, a Gita commentary, a commentary on the Vedas called the Vedartha Sangraha, Nitya Grantha, another commentary. So here's his story, which is a very interesting story because it involves renunciation in one sense, but also yukta vairagya, what real renunciation is. So as all stories go, once upon a time, there was a great devotee named Nadi Muni. This was about 908 AD. And he compiled the Vedas and hymns. This is in South India, for those of you who don't know where South India is. It is generally Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. So he compiled the hymns of the Alwars. The Alwars were the poets from South India who glorified Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi in literally hundreds of poems. And there were even female poets as well as male poets. And this Nadi Muni, he actually put together and helped compile what's called the Tamil Vedas, or the Vedas that are in the language of Tamil Nadu. So, this Nadi Muni, he had a son, and his son was Ishwara Muni. It's nice to be a member of the Muni family. So his son was Ishwara Muni, and Ishwara Muni died when he was very young, basically right after he got married, and his son was named Yamunacharya. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Yamunacharya, the great Acharya in South India. So, Nadi Muni, who, remember I mentioned before, he was the compiler of the Tamil Vedas, he actually took sannyas when his son died, and therefore his grandson, Yamuna, he wasn't Yamunacharya at that particular point, was only 12 years old, but he was a great scholar. And as a great scholar, he defended the honor of his guru. Right now we're talking about Yamunacharya, remember. We haven't gotten to Ramanujacharya yet. And so what happened is that the king of Chola was making all the Brahmins pay taxes, which is actually illegal according to the Vedic culture. According to the Vedic culture, Brahmins are not supposed to pay taxes. Brahmins are supported by the government. So this particular king of Chola was making not the Munis, Yamuna's, Yamunacharya at that time, his guru paid taxes. So Yamunacharya wanted to challenge this particular strategy. So at 12 years old, he went to argue with the pundit of the king of Chola, because there was a deal that if you didn't pay taxes, you had to defeat the pundit in punditry, in logic and reasoning. So, what happened is he had this whole bet with the pundit, and the queen of the king of Chola took Yamunacharya's side. The queen said that if he wins against the pundit, the king should give Yamunacharya half of his kingdom. And if he loses, if Yamunacharya loses, the queen said that she would become the obedient servant of the king. Obviously, she wasn't an obedient wife at that time. But anyway, that was the deal. So what happened is Yamunacharya came, and the first thing he did in Sanskrit, he asked 3 questions or 3 challenges to the Pandit. He says, "My dear Pandit, prove to me that your mother is not barren." That's very hard. If you say to someone, prove to you that their mother is not barren, how did she have you if she was barren? So you're trying to prove something that's almost impossible. Second thing he said, prove to me that the king is unrighteous. Shoot. Actually, first one is prove to me the mother is barren, sorry. The second one is prove to me the king is unrighteous. And that would have been an insult to the king. The third one is prove to me the queen is unchaste. And that would have been an insult to the queen. So the Pandit didn't know what to say, but Yamunacharya understood exactly how to answer the question. He said, well, you can prove that your mother is barren. That's very easy to prove, because it's said in the Vedic literatures, if the lady only has one son, she's barren. The second one, you can prove the king is unrighteous, because the king assumes the karma of all of his citizens. So in one sense, the king is unrighteous. And you can also prove that the queen is unchaste, because she's married to the king, who is the representative of all the demigods. So it's a lot of husbands. So, therefore, Yamunacharya won, and he got the name Alabandura, or Alabanduru, sorry. That means he was conquered, and he was given half the kingdom. So, getting half the kingdom, he really got into being the king, or half the kingdom king. And he started to enjoy himself, because as we know, when one gets material opulence, it's very dangerous. So therefore, Krishna says, Yashahamanaguriname harishe tadanam shanai. For those who I especially favor, I take away things. Like right now, Krishna's put us in a situation where he's taken away our freedom, right? You'd all like to go out and have nice programs in the temple. You'd like to just, some of you might like to go to see Bollywood movies, but not me. So Krishna's taken away, and he's teaching us lessons that we're not the controller. We mentioned this the other day, too, that we're not the controller. So he got bewildered. So Yamunacharya got bewildered, and Krishna had some plan to bring him back to his right consciousness. The plan was that Nata Muni, his grandfather, remember, Nata Muni was the father of, Ishwara Muni was the father of Yamunacharya. Nata Muni, his grandfather, sent one of his disciples to try to convince Yamunacharya to take sannyas, to leave the kingdom. Now, Yamunacharya, this disciple, his name was Nambi, was not able to meet with Yamunacharya because he was a king. Yamunacharya was the king. So he had this plan that every day he would go to the king's kitchen, this Nambi, the disciple of Nata Muni, he would go to the king's kitchen and deliver some very special spinach. And the king got attached to the spinach, and one time he stopped bringing the spinach. And the king, Yamunacharya, at that time, said, "Where's my spinach? Bring the person who has brought the spinach." And they brought this person who was the representative of Nata Muni, the grandfather of Yamunacharya, and he preached to him, and Yamunacharya gave everything up and left the kingdom and became the great Acharya Yamunacharya in Tamil Nadu, especially in Srirangam, a very, very famous place. So Yamuna's chief follower, try to follow this, it gets a little complicated. Yamunacharya's chief follower was Sri Saila Purna. And Sri Saila Purna had 2 sisters. One sister's name was Bhu Devi. Now, she's not the original Bhu Devi on the altar, but that was the name of the sister. And that sister was the mother of Ramanuja. Okay, we're getting to Ramanuja now. So, as we mentioned before, Ramanuja was called Ramanuja because he is considered to be an incarnation of Lakshman, the younger brother of Lord Ram. So, as he grew up in Kanchipuram, this is where he was living. Kanchipuram is a very special city in Tamil Nadu. And there's a deity there called Bharata Daraja. This deity of Bharata Daraja is known as the wish-fulfilling deity. And we're going to tell the story about that in a few minutes. So, Ramanujacharya got married at 16 years of age. His father had died. And Ramanujacharya had a guru that was not a devotee. His guru's name was Yadava Prakash, who was an impersonalist. At the same time, Ramanujacharya was associating with a 6-year relationship with someone else called Kanchi Purna. Kanchi Purna was a disciple of Yamunacharya, but he was from a very low-class family, at least what's considered to be a very low-class family in India. Now, those of you who are from India know that there's a lot of discrimination against people from a so-called low-class family. We discovered last time we were in Vrindavan that there's many Brajavasis who are prohibited from coming in the temples in Vrindavan and in Govardhan because they're considered to be of a low-class family. They're Brajavasis, multi-generation Brajavasis, people who are just like have Krishna in their hearts, who are basically talking to Krishna every day, and they're prohibited. This is such a disgrace that that's allowed to happen. Anyway, getting to the point. So Kanchipurna was a disciple of Yamunacharya in a low-class family, and he associated with Ramanuja. And Ramanuja's initiating guru was Yadava Prakash, who was an impersonalist. So one time, Yadava Prakash was giving a commentary on what's called the Sandogya Upanishad, in which the Lord's eyes are described in a certain way as being reddish. So in that description, Yadava Prakash, he, analyzed the Sanskrit to try to indicate that the Lord's eyes were as red as a monkey's ass. And of course, Ramanujacharya, not liking that, he started to cry. He was massaging his guru at the same time, and the tears fell on the guru. And the guru said, "What are you doing? Why are you crying?" And he said, "Guru Maharaj, you're wrong." So in India, that is dangerous. In the modern day, you can get away with any damn thing, but in India, that's quite dangerous. So the guru got very angry, and Ramanuja took the same Sanskrit verses and analyzed how the Lord's eyes were as beautiful as a lotus, a night-blooming lotus, a reddish lotus. And the guru was really angry. Second time he defeated his guru, when he convinced all the guru's disciples that the Brahman is not capable of being covered by illusion, because in the Mayavad philosophy you say the Brahman falls into illusion. That's Vivarta, means illusion. There's several different types of Mayavad or impersonal philosophy. One is called Parinam, the other one's Vivarta. We're not going to get into that right now. So his guru, Ramanujacharya's guru, got so upset that he said, "I want to kill my disciple." And he wanted to kill his disciple in a very wonderful way. All of you who ever want to kill someone, this is a way to do it. That he told his disciple, "Let's go to the Ganges." And he had a plan with all of his other disciples to kill Ramanujacharya at that point, and then bathe in the Ganges. Pretty nice, isn't it? That you can bathe in the Ganges and do any damn thing you want. Or, like we say when we're worshiping Tulsi, you can kill someone in Yani Kani Chapapani Brahmahacha Kanicha Tani Tani Pranashanti parakshana padepade, that every circumambulation of Tulsi become free from all the offenses and all the karma, even that of Brahmahatya. So don't kill Brahmins, but I'm joking about this, of course. So the Guru had this whole plan. Let's all go to the Ganges. So they went all the way across India, all the way north, of course, to the Ganges. And Ramanujacharya's brother Govinda informed him. And in the middle of the night when they were by the Ganges, Ramanujacharya left the party. And interestingly enough, even though he was wandering through the woods, Lord Vishnu appeared as a fowler. A fowler is someone who hunts for birds. He appeared as a fowler and directed Ramanujacharya and somehow or other got him to go back to Kanchi and practically instantaneously. A very, very interesting story. So Ramanujacharya, being very liberal, began or continued to associate with his guru. That takes a lot of determination after the guru tries to kill you. So one time, shortly after his guru got back, his guru was very upset that his disciple was still alive. The king of Kanchi had a problem. His daughter was haunted by a ghost, a Brahma Rakshasa ghost. And so Ramanujacharya's guru tried to cure this girl, but the ghost laughed at Ramanujacharya's guru. He said, ha 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 ha. The only person who could cure me is Ramanujacharya. And so Ramanujacharya, he actually was able to get rid of the ghost, and the ghost flew out of the girl's body, went into a tree, broke a few branches, and the guru thought, this is enough with this guy. Got to get rid of my disciple. But didn't try to kill him at that point, just kicked him out. After Ramanujacharya described this verse from the Vedic literatures, Sarva Kalp Idam Brahma, which means basically everything is Brahman. And we understand, that's true, everything is Brahman, but there's variety in Brahman. There's energies of Brahman. So, getting back to the point, so Ramanujacharya is married at this point to a very nice girl, Rakshakambal, and his wife is from a very, very high-class Brahminical family. Remember, his Siksha Guru is from a very low-class family, although he's a pure devotee, Kanchipurna. So Ramanujacharya continued serving his Siksha Guru, but Ramanujacharya's wife didn't like it at all. And what happened, several different things happened, was that one time Ramanujacharya's wife was preparing prasadam for Ramanujacharya's Siksha Guru, and the Siksha Guru came early before Ramanujacharya came back, and she fed him, but then she threw away all the food or fed it to the dogs afterwards, his remnants. And when Ramanujacharya heard that, he got very upset. Now, a second thing happened is one time Ramanujacharya's wife and the wife of Ramanujacharya's Siksha Guru were taking water from a well simultaneously, and some of the water from Ramanujacharya's Siksha Guru's wife's bucket fell into the bucket of Ramanujacharya's wife. The bucket belonged to Ramanujacharya's wife. And Ramanujacharya's wife just threw the water away. Said, yeah, it's contaminated water. So Ramanujacharya took some very severe measures after that with his wife. In the meantime, while all this was going on, Jamunacharya, who was in Srirangam, which is some distance from Kanchipuram, called for Ramanujacharya. So Ramanujacharya went to Srirangam, but then he discovered that Jamunacharya had left his body. He was lying on his back. He just left his body a few hours earlier, and he had 3 fingers in his hand clenched like that. And Ramanujacharya asked the disciples of Yamunacharya, did he ever do that before? And they said no. And then Ramanujacharya revealed the 3 aspects of the mission of Yamunacharya that had not been accomplished. And as he revealed them, each finger opened. He said, one, teach people in general. In other words, teach Krishna consciousness to the whole world. Two, write a Vedanta commentary. And three, name one disciple. Parashara Muni. So then it was understood that Ramanujacharya was the disciplic descendant of Yamunacharya, even though he wasn't the direct disciple. So he returned to Kanchi, where his wife was, and he was very disinterested. And as I mentioned before, several of these things happened that really got him angry at his wife. So Ramanujacharya thought, this is it. I gotta get out of here. Some similar story to Prabhupada and his wife. So Ramanujacharya had a trick. He called for a Brahmin, and he told the Brahmin to deliver a message. Because in those days, Brahmanas were messengers too. And the message was that Ramanujacharya's wife's mother was planning a marriage for someone in the family and requesting Ramanujacharya's wife to go to their village. And so that Brahmin arrived and gave the message to Ramanujacharya's wife, and Ramanujacharya's wife told the message to her husband, Ramanujacharya, and he made believe he didn't know anything about it. And she said, I have to go to my village. And Ramanujacharya said, all right, go to your village. I'll be coming very shortly after you. But guess what? He never came shortly after her, and he took sannyas. And therefore he got the name Yati Raj. Yati Raj means the king of sannyasis. Yati Raj, king of sannyasis. And initially he initiated his first disciple, who was Dasarati, his cousin, and his second disciple, Quresh, who had a photographic memory. Now this Quresh, he's still in Kanchi at this time, Ramanujacharya. So Quresh preached to Ramanujacharya's previous guru, Yadava Prakash, who was a Mayavadi, and converted him to Vaishnavism. Very, very interesting. And also Yadava Prakash had a dream, and in the dream, Lord Vishnu told him to take shelter at Ramanujacharya's lotus feet, and his mother also instructed him. And Yadava Prakash, Ramanujacharya's guru, actually took initiation from Ramanujacharya. Very, very interesting story. And he got the name Govinda Jihar, or GR, sorry, Govinda GR. Then, Ramanujacharya left Kanchipura, and left the deity Varadaraja, and he went to Srirangam, where he studied under this great devotee named Mahapurna. Most of the disciples of Yamunacharya had like a Purna after their name, like Goshti Purna, Mahapurna, etc. like that. And this Mahapurna sent Ramanujacharya to learn a very special mantra that could liberate anybody. So he went to this guru, Goshti Purna, to learn this mantra. And when he went to Goshti Purna to learn the mantra, Goshti Purna refused to give him the mantra. So Ramanujacharya begged many, many times to get this mantra. Finally, Goshti Purna agreed. I will give you this mantra if you agree never to repeat it to anyone else, because anyone else who hears this mantra will get liberated. And Ramanujacharya said, okay, I agree, Guru Maharaj. But right after he got the mantra, he went to the tallest building in the town and cried out to people, if anyone wants to get liberated, please chant this mantra. Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. And everybody began to chant it, and Goshti Purna, his initiating mantra guru, came there, and he was so angry, and he said, my dear disciple, you are going to hell. And Ramanujacharya said, I'm willing to go to hell. I just want everyone to be liberated. Then his Goshti Purna, his mantra guru, bowed down at his disciples' feet and said, you are actually my guru because you have understood the proper consciousness a Vaishnava should have. So, wonderful story. Then Ramanujacharya began to travel all over India, and he went to Jagannath Puri one time, and he saw the devotees there. They were engaged in unregulated devotional service. In other words, they were offering to the deities at any time or day or night. And Ramanujacharya got really upset with that. But he wasn't informed that the devotees in Jagannath Puri were on the platform of Ramanuja. They were doing everything spontaneously. So they didn't have to follow all the different details. And therefore, Lord Jagannath threw him out of Jagannath Puri and sent him to Kurmakshetra. And when he was in Kurmakshetra, he thought it was the Lord Shiva temple. Later on, he discovered it was the temple to Lord Kurma, the Kurma Dev. So Ramanujacharya, a few more stories, actually a lot of more stories about Ramanujacharya. After that, he wrote the Sripad, the commentary on the, oops, what happened here? Something here. Oh, this thing went off. Wait a second. My notes, the battery of my notes went off. That's no problem. I can continue with the computer if that happens. One minute. Okay, let me go on to my computer notes. Hold on 1 second. All right. Okay. So then Ramanujacharya went back to let's see, Kurmakshetra. Oh yeah, then after writing the Sri Bhashya, the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, he was informed about a king, or the king of Chola, who was a Shiva worshipper, and he wanted everyone to worship Shiva instead of Vishnu. And this was a problem, because he was threatening everybody that if you worship Vishnu instead of Shiva, we're going to kill you. And especially he wanted to kill Ramanujacharya. So what happened is Kuresh, the disciple of Ramanujacharya, decided to take the position of Ramanujacharya and go before the king. And when he went before the king asked him to give up worship of Lord Vishnu. He refused to do that, and the king put out his eyes, made him blind. But Ramanujacharya told this disciple Kuresh that you should go before the deity of Varadaraja, the wish-fulfilling deity, and beg for your eyes back. So Kuresh went before the deity, but didn't ask for his eyes back. In fact, what he did was he asked to be able to have the king forgiven for all of his sins. When Ramanujacharya heard this, he ordered Kuresh to go back before the deity, and he said to Kuresh that actually your eyes belong to me, are meant for my service, the service of the Guru, so ask for them back. And then he came out after having darshan of the deities, or the deity having darshan of him. He collapsed and he was able to see again. It's a miracle. Ramanujacharya was able to defeat anyone in philosophical debate. One time he had an argument with 1,000 Jains. He defeated them, and then they all committed suicide after he defeated them. And there's one famous story that's a very interesting story about a disciple of his named Dhanur Das. Hmm. Now, Dhanur Das was very attached. He was very attached to his girlfriend. Let me just go back to this, my other notes here. Excuse me. I'll take a second. Dhanur Das was very, very attached to his girlfriend. In fact, he was so attached to his girlfriend that when he would walk with his girlfriend, he would walk backwards in front of his girlfriend, hold an umbrella over her head, and fan her with a chamara. So once upon a time, Sripad, Ramanujacharya, and his disciples were there when he was doing that. And Ramanujacharya's disciples were shocked to see this guy. They were making fun of him. And Ramanujacharya said, no, don't make fun of him. You should actually bring him to see me. And so this Dhanur Das was brought to see Sripad Ramanujacharya. And Ramanujacharya asked Dhanur Das, why are you doing this? I mean, why are you fanning this lady? And why are you holding an umbrella over her head? Why are you walking backwards? And this Dhanur Das said, because she has beautiful eyes. And Ramanujacharya, instead of preaching heavy to him, this is interesting for us, because sometimes we as devotees preach heavy to people, and we burn people out. This is what happened to me when I first walked into a Hare Krishna temple. I got told that unless I joined, Kali Yuga was coming, and I was going to be living underground, as short as a dwarf. And guess what? I ran away for 2 years. And so Ramanujacharya understood you have to give people positive taste. Then they will give up the things that are not productive to Krishna consciousness. So Ramanujacharya said to this guy, Dhanur Das, if I show you someone with more beautiful eyes, do you want to go see them? And Dhanur Das said, sure thing. He thought it would be another beautiful girl. So instead, Ramanujacharya took him to see the deities, Radharaja. And when he saw the deities, he was so enamored that he gave up his attachment for his girlfriend. But of course, Ramanujacharya actually told this disciple, who became Ramanujacharya's disciple, to get married. And he got married to his girlfriend. And the interesting thing is, as a married devotee, he was more detached than the brahmacharis. Because the brahmacharis would oftentimes complain that Ramanujacharya was spending so much time talking to Dhanur Das and his wife. And the brahmachari said, what are you doing? You're just an attached grihasta. And Ramanujacharya taught the brahmacharis and sannyasis a lesson. What did he do? One night, while the brahmacharis and sannyasis were sleeping, he exchanged all their clothes, put their clothes by another sannyasi, another brahmachari, and then when they woke up, they started fighting with each other. And then Ramanujacharya said, see how attached you are? Now I'm going to show you how detached and how Krishna conscious Dhanur Das is. So he told some of the sannyasis to go, or brahmacharis, to go over to the house of Dhanur Das and to take Dhanur Das's wife's jewelry away from her. So Dhanur Das's wife was resting, and they started to take the jewelry away. Actually, they took it off of her body, which is kind of unusual. And she turned over, and they ran away. And then Ramanujacharya told his brahmacharis to watch in the window, brahmacharis and sannyasis, to watch in the window when Dhanur Das came home. So Dhanur Das came home, and he asked his wife why she had jewelry only on half of her body. And his wife replied that the brahmacharis were taking the jewelry, and I turned over to allow them to take the jewelry from the other half of my body. And Dhanur Das chastised his wife. Why did you scare them off? You should have just given them everything. And so the brahmacharis and sannyasis understood that Ramanujacharya's disciple Dhanaradas was more renounced than them. Because what is renunciation? Renunciation means Ishavasham idam sarvam yatkancha jagajam jagat. To understand that everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yukta Vairagya, meant to be used for Krishna. Not to give things up. Famous story. So later on, when Ramanujacharya went to Navadvip, saw Lord Jagannath sent him to Navadvip, and he actually got a darshan, or a spurti, of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya told him only to preach dasha ras. That means the servitude in relationship with the Lord. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, later on, you will appear and help me in my mission. And of course, Ramanujacharya later on appeared as Lord Nityananda. Because you have this Chaturvyuha expansion, which in every incarnation of the Lord, you have the Chaturvyuha expansion. You have Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughna. And then, of course, you have Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda and the other members of the Chaturvyuha. Prajuna, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, etc. All right, and so now we're coming to the final pastimes of Ramanujacharya. He told his disciples he was going to leave this world. They begged him, please stay. And he said, I'll give you 3 more days, but I'm going to give you instructions, very important instructions that you must follow. And these instructions are very much applicable for us too. 1, serve the Vaishnavas. That means all Vaishnavas. 2, have faith in the Vedas and the devotees. 3, conquer lust, anger, and greed. 4, worship Narayan. And of course, for us, that means the original Narayan, who happens to be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And right before he left, they made a deity of him. And Ramanuja, he breathed on the deity. And he said, from now on, you can worship this deity as me. Then, with his head on the lap of Govinda, his cousin and disciple, he left his body in Srirangam. And to this day, in Srirangam, his body is preserved. Anyone who's gone to Srirangam can see that deity in front of the body, and his body is preserved. It's wrapped in cloth. And we've been there several times and offered our respects to Sripad Ramanujacharya. So today is very important, being Ramanujacharya's appearance day. And many lessons from this, of course. The first lesson is that Yukta Vairagya, and also Ramanujacharya was very enthusiastic about defeating impersonalists, as Madhvacharya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada were. But what I get from this story with Dhanaradas is that it's not important. Kiva Vipra, Kiva Nyasi, Shudrakena Noi, Ye Krishna Tattva Veda, Se Guru Hoy, whether one is, let's say, one caste or another caste, or even a man or woman's body, or Shudra or Brahman, or wherever one is born, if one knows the science of Krishna, knowing the science of Krishna means to apply it, not only Gyan, Vigyan, then that person can be Guru. Okay, so now we have, of course, many of you are watching on Facebook, and you can't comment on Facebook, but we have many others from New Zealand, our devotees in New Zealand, who are watching on Zoom. And actually what we should do, of course I can't see all of you, but you can raise your hand if you want to make a comment, and I'll take you off of mute. Or if you want to ask a question. Does anyone want to ask a question? Anybody, any of you Vaishnavas want to ask a question? Raise your hand if you want to ask a question about Yamunacharya, or Ramanujacharya, or Srirangam, or any of the topics we talked about today. Or are you all just tired from the day? question? Okay.
I just wanted to know this because I was just curious because a lot of pastimes with spiritual masters, when a disciple dies after the spiritual master dies, it's auspicious. Why is it auspicious?
Is it auspicious for the disciple to die after the spiritual master? What is the question?
Yeah, or die at the same time than the spiritual master.
I'm trying to understand. Auspicious, the disciple leaves the body right after the spiritual master, you mean?
Yes, or at a similar timing than the spiritual master leaving the body.
Well, actually, generally, the process is when the spiritual master leaves the body, the disciple becomes dedicated to the mission of the spiritual master rather than leaving the body. It's sometimes the comparison is given like the chaste wife in relationship to the husband. That's from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's commentary. But generally, when the spiritual master leaves, the sincere disciple dedicates himself or herself more to the mission of the spiritual master. Just like when Prabhupada left this world, of course, it was devastating. All of us were crying. I remember very clearly, I was in Los Angeles, and when the announcement was there, everybody just basically fainted on the ground, felt that our lives were not worth living. The whole purpose of our lives had been destroyed. But then, after some time, after the grieving period, we decided, at least I decided, and many of my god brothers and god sisters, decided to dedicate our lives further to Prabhupada's mission, and that's when I decided to take sannyas. And right after Prabhupada left the planet in 1978, I took sannyas. So I'm not saying that, when your guru leaves, you've got to take sannyas. But the whole point is to dedicate yourself to the mission of the guru, whatever is most productive to spreading Krishna consciousness. The conclusion I have come to after many, many years, 200 years in the Hare Krishna movement, is that usually what's most productive in 99% of the cases is for people to remain in their situation, household life, and use their household life for preaching Krishna consciousness. You'll see the most successful religions in the world, and I'm talking about religions or movements that are hundreds, if not thousands of times more successful, at least externally, than Krishna consciousness, are the ones that base their whole social structure on grihastha life rather than sannyas life. One of the problems we have in ISKCON is that there's too much emphasis on renunciation. And what that does is it actually destroys the whole social structure. Like Prabhupada would often say that when he had a business, he wouldn't hire anybody unless they were married, because they weren't stable. Of course, hopefully I'm stable. But but the stability, both economic stability, emotional stability, and everything of a society is dependent on the grahastas, who are the stomach of society. And this is the varnashram culture. So unfortunately in ISKCON, I think we have undue emphasis on renunciation. And because of that, people get the impression when they come into our movement that in order to be devotees, you've got to just like drop everything. Of course, in the 1960s and 70s when I joined, that might have been a productive strategy. But long term, it's not. I mean, if you contrast our society or the rate of growth of our society to, let's say, the Mormons, and you look at their external strategy, I'm not talking about philosophy, but if you look at their external strategy works. And they don't have any economic problems. Of course, nowadays everyone has economic problems because of the nice virus, the compassionate virus, Karuna virus, anyway. Now everyone, but in any case, they have very stable society. People join because of the social networking. People join because of the stability. People join because of the loving relationships. People don't join, in general, unless you find a very exceptional person, because of philosophy. People join because of relationships. And I think in ISKCON we have to change our strategy from one of extreme renunciation to teaching people how to live in this world and have loving relationships and love Krishna at the same time. So, anyway, so don't leave your body. Wouldn't be a good idea. So, who else has a question? Question or comment? Wow, you're also quiet today. The other day you were also, okay, Nitai Pad, I'll take you off of mute. Okay, Nitai Pad.
Just want to clarify, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave darshan to Ramanuja Acharya in Navadvip,
Yeah.
I sort of heard, and I want to confirm if that's true, that Ramanuja Acharya was internally meditating on the Gauranga form, but externally preaching devotional service to Vishnu.
Yes.
Is that bona fide?
Yes, because he was informed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you should leave the teachings of the higher rasas to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he would appear.
Wow.
Because there's a progression. I mean, like you say, even Lord Brahma, he knew about the higher rasas because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to write or speak the Brahma Samhita.
That's right.
But he didn't really write about them or speak about them so much. So you leave something up to the next Acharya or the next group of Acharyas. Like Prabhupada actually said at one time that Bhakti Vinod Thakur could have spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And then the devotees asked Prabhupada, well, why didn't he do that? And Prabhupada said, because he wanted to give us some service. He wanted us to do that. So anyway, there's a plan of the Lord, and these great acharyas know the plan of the Lord. Fortunately, we have the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his dearmost devotees, especially his Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, and we're given the highest knowledge. And of course, even though we've given the highest knowledge, it doesn't mean that we should think that we're the highest. We're the highest. And we should appreciate those who worship Lord Vishnu. I've been in Sri Ranga many times, and it's very beautiful there. Everyone is chanting Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. It's just like, it really touches the heart. So people should not think that they're more advanced than they actually are. That's a problem. That's actually a problem we have in ISKCON. That we have a lot of people who think they're on a higher level than they actually are in devotional service. So we should be humble. Trinadapit Shunichena Tarariva Sahushana Manina Manadena Kirtina Sadahari. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Guru Maharaj,
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
I just want to just find out something. If Ramanuja Acharya left his wife, is it practical that, why can't they correct their wives instead of just leaving their wife
Oh, that is funny. Okay, I guess I got to answer that difficult question. You remember the story? I'll leave you on so you can talk. Remember the story of Prabhupada? Prabhupada tried his best to correct his wife, but she was incorrigible. This is the word, incorrigible. She couldn't be corrected. And basically, Ramanuja Acharya's wife was, at least externally, I don't know who she was in the spiritual world, but at least externally, she was a Vaishnava Aparadi. You understand? She was an offender to the Vaishnavas. I mean, imagine someone, let's say, okay, let's give you an example. Let's say, when Ranganath was alive, I came over to your house, and Ranganath said, you're supposed to take care of Guru Maharaj, and you gave me prasadam, and then after I ate prasadam, you fed it all to the dogs. All the remnants.
Oh no.
And then no, let's say you were like that. And then Ranganath comes back and he says, Priya. That's interesting. I don't know if he ever called you Priya, but anyway. So he says, Priya, where's the Guru Maharaj's remnant? She said, oh, I fed it to the dogs, and then I washed the whole house with cow manure after he came.
Oh no.
That's the consciousness that Raksha Kambo, who is Ramanujacharya's wife, had. And she displayed it several times. It wasn't just once. Or
Okay.
let's say one day you took your husband's Bhagavatams and sold them for, of course you don't take tea biscuits, sold them for cigarettes. You know, Ranganath came back and said, where's my Bhagavatams? Well, I had some cigarettes I wanted to smoke. And I sold your Bhagavatams. I think he would be justified to leave home at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's not, excuse me, that's not only like materialism, that's offensiveness. It's one thing if someone's materialistic and humble about it. We don't say anything about that. If someone has a material desire, it's fine. But if someone commits offenses against great devotees, I mean, I get so angry in Vrindavan because people are mistreating the Brajavasis because they think they're higher caste.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's not good.
It makes me really angry. I mean, I don't say I'm angry, but it makes me really angry. Here are people who love Krishna, and they're being treated like dogs because their name is not the right name, or they weren't born in the right family.
Hmm.
You know, it's a Vaishnava aparada to think like that or to act like that. Okay, that's good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Just to let you all know who are watching, we're also broadcasting on Facebook simultaneously. We have 34 people watching on Facebook, and we have quite a few people. We have 29 people, or 20 people, sorry. 20 people at least watching here, and all this is going to be recorded for all of you to see later on. Okay? Any other quick questions? It's probably 8 o'clock there now, right? 8 o'clock. I'm in Fiji. I'm doing fine in Fiji. Krishna is protecting me. Some people say that I should just stay here and be protected, but we have to see what Krishna wants. I know Krishna will protect me wherever I go. And so if Krishna wants me to leave, Krishna arranges an airplane, I'll go. Otherwise, I'll stay here for as long as Krishna wants. The devotees have been very nice to me. We're actually in full isolation here. That is, I'm not even going to people's houses now anymore. Because I don't want people to mix with each other. I'm not afraid for myself, but I don't want people to mix with each other. And possibly, there was another case discovered here in Fiji today, not amongst the devotees. So I just want the devotees to be protected and take adequate measures. So we're doing all of this association with people by internet. And tomorrow morning, for example, I'm giving a class to the devotees in Europe by internet, by the same means. So, if there's no other questions...
And who does the prasadam, Guru Maharaj?
What's that?
Who does the prasadam? Who cooks the prasadam?
Prasadam Saki. Saki is Sanatan's wife.
Sanatan's wife. Yes.
And Gokul Bandhu is coming to help too. But, you know, I'm fine. I know how to cook myself. And
Not in Fiji, though.
all my not in Fiji, but all my laundry's being done. You know, and just there's no problem.
Okay.
The only problem in this world is if you think you have a problem, because Krishna is everywhere and everything and controlling everything. So if Krishna arranges something, that's the way it's meant to be, and you learn how to be Krishna conscious in that circumstance. That's all. We learn that we're not the controller anymore. And as we mentioned before, that's a big lesson for all of us. And also we learn how to relate to each other and preach. I'm doing more preaching now than practically I've ever done before. I mean, I've day and night conversations with devotees individually, or these internet stuff, classes here, this is ecstatic. I mean, I could do this for the rest of my life. I don't have to go anywhere else. So, Krishna, Krishna will give you what you need and protect what you have, but you have to be flexible enough to understand what Krishna is saying and use your intelligence in applying that. Okay, I think it's time to... What? One more question? What? Someone else?
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Oh,
Pranam.
okay. Nalini Kant and Radha Padma. What's up?
Gurudev, before question. Gurudev, there is a, just would like to introduce, there is a devotee from Ujjain,
Yeah.
Viraha Prakash Prabhu, he might be watching. My question is, Gurudev, today we were discussing about difference between Mayavad and impersonalism.
Yeah.
I tried to say something, but I wasn't very clear. Can you please enlighten us?
Okay. Well, actually, these are overlapping concepts. A Mayavad basically says the Lord's body, the Lord's pastimes, it's all Maya. Everything's illusion. And impersonalist means that basically, ultimately, there's no variety. Variety is an illusion. Or ultimately, the goal is, there's different varieties of impersonalists. Ultimately, the goal is to merge into the Brahman, into the Absolute, into the Supreme Personality of God, of course he's not a person, and become one with Him. So just understand what it means according to the word. And Shunyavadi is one who believes basically everything is void. Like some types of Buddhists, not all Buddhists. Devotees don't generally devotees don't understand Buddhism because there's actually 1,001 different varieties of Buddhism. But Mayavadi means the Lord's body, everything about Him, all variety is Maya or illusion. Got it? Yeah.
Mayavadis, they do also claim that there is no difference between Krishna, Bhagavan, and us and any living being.
Yeah, because it's all variety is illusion. According to them, all variety is illusion. You understand? That's called Vivartavad. That all variety is illusion. I mean, there's different varieties of impersonalists and Mayavadis, but Vivartavad basically means that everything is one, and and some of them think that we are God, I'm God, you're God, and we're in illusion. We forgot that we're God. It's quite a confusing thing. But the problem with that philosophy is, the theory of Vivarta, or illusion, is that if you say that we were God, we're all one, and right now we're in illusion, then you're saying illusion is more powerful than God. So illusion must be God. It's an illogical philosophy. All right?
Okay, Gurudev.
All right, don't worry about it. Just know that if someone says he's God, or we're all one, or ultimately we merge into the absolute truth, that's Mayavadi and impersonalism.
Okay, Gurudev.
But the main thing is we get angry, and there's a difference between that and a Brahmavadi. A Brahmavadi is basically saying that we're all one, but he never criticizes God. He never says that God's body is illusion. That's a Mayavadi. So Mayavadis are offenders. One who is simply a Brahmavadi, like the four Kumaras were, or Shukadeva Goswami was, are not offenders. They're just innocent, like agnostics, we may say, in the Western world. Okay?
Okay, Gurudev. Thank you, Gurudev.
All right, thank you. Take care of your family. Take care. Protect yourself from the virus.
Okay.
Be very
Okay,
careful.
Gurudev.
Wear gloves
Okay, Gurudev.
and a mask. And
Yes, Gurudev.
don't touch your face.
Okay.
Okay, that's very nice. All right, we are going to end now, so thank you all very much. And we'll be discussing with Krishna Chandra and company when we'll have our next conversation, but it's very gratifying to see 20 people here. And now it's from the other Facebook, it's been between 35 and 45 people watching us. Okay, all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari 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 Bol.